Welcome everyone to our weekly podcast. This week we'll be talking about Akashic Records or Akashic Records. I don't know, however, whichever way is right or whichever way you prefer to say it. Um, so it's just a series, I suppose, of all about, and then we put a subject in. So all we know about the particular subject, we would like to share it with you. And this is a live podcast. So that just means that if anyone joins us live and has some sort of questions or would like to maybe share a little bit of their story regarding the topic we're covering, then feel free to post it in the comments. We'll read them at the end of the conversation. I'm Kat Bazilko, spiritual medium and healer, and I've got Mel Stevens with me.
Hi everyone, my name's Mel Stevens. I'm a spiritual teacher. Excuse me, I'm a spiritual teacher with a frog in my throat and a tarot reader.
Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, Akashic Records. Have you dabbled much in them? Let's just say. Let's start with a question.
Yeah, it's interesting with the Akashic. I have no idea either. I've heard it. I've heard it.
Just choose whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I tend to switch up. Depends what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
So, I've learned from somebody how to access the Akashic Records and go in through visualization. I've actually seen 2 or 3 different people do it in slightly different ways, but generally you're accessing a different realm. You can go in through the quantum field, which is one way somebody taught me how to do it. And then another person taught me how to go in through a visualization. It's not a physical space you're going to anyway, so it's you move there with intention however you do it, but I've done it in a couple of different ways. I end up seeing the same place, and for me I've created and constructed what looks like a dusty old library, because that's how my mind wants to create it. That's what resonates with me. So I see it as going up some steps. I climb up to it for some reason. I don't know why. That's how my subconscious takes me in. I open the door and I'm in this dusty old library. And then if I want to learn about one of my past lives, I take a book, and that book contains that life. And then I access that life and I put it back. And if I want to go to a different life, I take a different one. And that's how I've been accessing my
Okay.
library.
So,
What about you?
so I have been interested in the subject for a few years, but I haven't entered Akashic Records myself until, I don't know, end of last year maybe, when I felt like this is the right time, because I didn't feel before like it would have been like I might have been curious, but it wasn't. I don't know. I just left it. I read books. I did take a course. Um, I did listen to some interviews of people who do Akashic Records for a living, and it's a fascinating subject. And I have received a couple of readings as well with different readers. Um, so yeah, and then I think when I accessed them myself, it was only a few times so far. I guess I just yeah, that's just how I felt I needed at the time. But I still have access to them, and I sometimes actually recently I did a meditation, and I just felt like, excuse me, like I just want to go enter Akashic Records. Didn't, although it wasn't my intention before I did the meditation, that I just went and had a little chat with my Akashic Records keeper about something. Um, so that's as much as I have, let's say, experienced or learned about it. But it's really interesting how many, because of the different books and the different interviews or interviews, whether it was on TV, interview or podcast, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, there's always something that someone has to say about the Akashic Records that is, that adds a little bit more to what I learned before. And there are many books for those who would like to learn a little bit more or enter Akashic Records. You don't have to take a course. You can just read a book. There are many that are actually telling you that are books not just about Akashic Records, but they instruct you on how to access Akashic Records as well. And so I thought we could probably start from what are Akashic Records even. And the way I understand it, and I love the description work that I heard somewhere. So again, all of these things will be just coming back to me. I'll be remembering them, but I can't pinpoint exactly at which point I heard them. But the Akashic Records, the way I see them is it's basically a tapestry. Someone has described them as a tapestry, energetic tapestry of your soul's eternal existence. So this is not just your current life or past life or future life, even. It's actually all of them because it's just an energetic library which holds all the information on your soul's journey. So when we incarnate, or if we don't incarnate even into any physical body, the soul always has a purpose. Like there's a reason why there is a soul and why the soul is going through different experiences. And it's all for the purpose of evolution and growth and learning. Because when our soul learns something, it actually learns it for the whole universe. So that ties into the whole law of oneness. Therefore, within the Akashic Records, there is information about everything and anything that ever existed in the universe, including, of course, all of the lives of everyone on Earth, all of the lives of everyone somewhere else than Earth. One of the Akashic readers that I follow is a Galactic Akashic reader, and she reads all of your information from your other lives that were not on Earth. But it's really interesting how it always applies to your life now, as you're asking, as a human, obviously, because all of those experiences and traits and sort of strengths in your personality that you exude nowadays, or in this life, let's say, have an origin that could have been somewhere else, as well. So so it's this library of information that is available about everything and anything. Do you have anything else to add to that, Mel?
Is that Debbie Solaris, the Galactic?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I love her work. It was you that told me about her. I think she's brilliant.
Yeah.
So there's a guy that I follow as well that works with the Akashic Records, and I thought it might be useful just because I'm sure somebody's probably thinking it. And then I want to ask you a question in a sec, Kat, because you might know the answer to this. But so I've got my Akashic Records, which is my soul's journey. You've got your Akashic Records, and it is possible for people to go into other people's, in case anybody's wondering, but only if there is a reason to do so and with the permission of the person who owns them. So I wouldn't just be nosy and go into one of my friends' Akashic Records and see who they'd been. But if you were working as an Akashic Record reader, I know people that do this, and like Debbie, that Kat just mentioned, does it, where you go to somebody and say, I want you to access my Akashic Records and tell me about my past lives that are impacting me in this life now. Because if you've had thousands and thousands, you'd be there all week trying to get every single past life information. But if you're feeling like I'm stuck because of something that's happened in a past life, you can go to somebody who will tap into your Akashic Records and say, okay, this is what's holding you back. This is the life you had. And then if they're an energy healer, they can work with you to heal from it. But it's not something I wouldn't recommend the average person going into somebody else's Akashic Records, because that wouldn't be ethical. But people can do that as a service. And I've got two questions now. I've got another one, Kat. Firstly, is that something you offer? And secondly, is there a collective Akashic Records for all of life beings in the whole universe, or is it just individual?
Yeah, so such good questions. The first one was, Sorry, what was the first one? Because I was started thinking about the second one.
Yes.
Oh, can you
I
access
couldn't
someone
remember.
else?
I didn't know if that was a service do you offer that as a service
Oh,
to people?
do I offer Akashic Records service? Not right now, I don't. However, I do feel like I'm able to access someone's Akashic Records when I do card readings if I ask for it. And just to comment on the point that you made about accessing someone else's Akashic Records, I that's one of the things that I know, and I resonate with that information. I believe it to be true. Every person's, let's say, I mean, persons, things, plants, that I'm kind of starting to answer your other question, there's a gatekeeper. So this is a space that is actually looked after. You will not be allowed to view someone else's Akashic records if the intention is not right. You don't have the permission of the other person. Those two things, and really, you can't lie to anyone. You can't. Your energy is everything because it's an energetic information that's just existing in the space of the energy of the universe. So the gatekeepers, I suppose you can call them gatekeepers, they can read your intention, your energy. So whatever you say or you think, it's like it doesn't matter. You can't lie when it comes to energy. And so if you can't access someone's records, it's because you're not meant to. But that also goes with your own records. Sometimes you might be not able to access certain information if perhaps you're not ready to see what the answer is, or perhaps there's something, maybe that particular answer is non-existent yet. Maybe you're just creating it, and there's just nothing there for you to see, because the Akashic records are always evolving. You're always creating, and you are the creator. It's all in your hands, because it's through your soul's purpose that you are, hopefully, by following your soul's purpose, you are creating that tapestry, and you're just adding extra bits onto there that then can be accessed on a by other people as well, in forms of inspiration, for example. And when it comes to the collective, I think you named it, I do understand it to be just everything that's in existence, because everything has a soul. Everything, we're all one. That kind of again goes back to that whole law of one. We're all one. We all have energy. We're all created from energy, vibration, light, sound, and it's just all there. So, for instance, when I started talking a little bit about inspiration as to how Akashic records can spontaneously work in our life, maybe without a conscious, access, oh, I'm accessing Akashic records, it kind of works in a way that your energy, the energy you're aligned with, will attract the information to you. So, for instance, I think there was quite a nice, simple example somewhere that I read about someone who maybe is really interested, and it's a great hobby to bake cakes. And they have decided to go and enter a competition. And whilst they are driving, because when we're driving, it's one of the times when a lot of us go into slightly meditative state, especially if it's a long journey, because and one that we know, and we don't have to focus our conscious mind too much. We're able to, go into that state of openness and just silence of our mind. And many people receive inspiration during that time. And that person in this example who entered the competition, they might suddenly receive an inspiration of what cake to bake, for instance, because that information was already somewhere in the Akashic field. Maybe someone else thought it somewhere, I don't know, the other end of the world, 100 years ago or whatever, but it's still floating, because every thought and every idea is an energy in itself. So it flows within that field of Akashic Records, and it's attracted to the energy. It's the law of attraction. So you will attract what you exude, I suppose. So who you are, what your energy is about. And then the other way is that you can ask for it specifically. But usually we would most likely ask about things that we are interested in. So whatever we're aligned with, we will have that sort of spontaneous access. And that includes, everything on a collective level, which is why you can also access Akashic Records to ask about historical information or about a country. For instance, I remember one of the courses I was taking, I didn't actually do it, I didn't actually practice it myself, but the lady that was teaching it, she mentioned one of the exercises to go into Akashic Records and view or observe the process of building the Eiffel Tower. So you can just go and then just see what it was like actually there, and it was just one of the exercises there. The other one of the books I read was suggesting, why don't you ask the Akashic Records to tell you something about, and I think it was some sort of a car make. I don't know if it was Ford or some other one. Just openly, just whatever comes about it, and and then just see what you receive. You might receive the excitement or idea of the creator, of the person who was behind the whole idea, and how it affected their life. Like, I don't know, you can receive all kinds of things. But yeah, it's all there for us to have a little look at.
Excellent, fabulous. I was going to make a comment, but before then, we've got a couple of comments from somebody on Facebook.
Yeah, so shall we address them at the end? The questions will definitely be addressed, guys, whoever is commenting, so please don't think like we're ignoring you. We just want to, I think, cover all bases first and then go to the questions. So we have them all here on the chat, and we will get to them.
Fabulous. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just going to comment, because I don't know the answer really. Now, Akashic Records, like I said, I've been in them through meditation. I understand there are people who read Akashic Records for other people, who access them for other people. When you have a past life hypnosis, which I've already had, I've had a regression. Is that the same thing? It's the same thing, isn't it? It's just
That's the
going.
thing. I think so.
Yeah.
In a sense, I was thinking when I was like preparing, because I took a few notes and things, and I thought, actually, I mean, in the same way, it can also be any kind of readings that you do, because it's all in your energy. So if you're going for a reading, like a card reading, then you obviously and let's say you're asking specifically about past life, so nothing that's happening in your life right now, really it will be stored within your Akashic Records. And so I believe that you just have that, let's call it spontaneous access that way to someone's Akashic Records, really, because it's energy, right? It's just, I think the difference might be in the fact that when you're trying maybe to, like I said, find different kind of information, maybe a little bit more in depth, maybe things that you're not meant to know, and then the gatekeeper or the gates can close and you can't answer this question. But whether you do it with a opening prayer first or not, that's my personal opinion, because like I say, I don't really work as an Akashic Records reader. So I'm aware there might be things that I just don't maybe understand just yet. But to me right now, that's just how it looks like, really.
I think very often with a lot of spiritual topics, the terminology can feel really confusing, and yet I think we use multiple phrases to mean the same thing depending on the person that's doing the work. Because I've done past life readings before with tarot, which is the same thing, isn't it? I'm accessing somebody's Akashic records with their permission to see, and I've asked, show me a past life that is preventing you from achieving your goal in this life. So there's the intention and the purpose, and I'm reading for a person that's given me their permission. But instead of going into a visualization to access them, I'm using the tarot. But it's accessing the same thing, isn't it? So for me, I guess the Akashic records are an energy, like you were saying. I like the tapestry of your life. It's just all of your lives as a soul in energetic form, and whatever we call them really doesn't. It's whatever we resonate with.
Yes,
It's the
and
same place that we're accessing them from. We're just going into that energy and picking up what it's giving us.
exactly. I think the only other maybe difference that would be if you were to go for card reading, let's say, versus an Akashic Records reader. The Akashic Records reader would consciously, and their intention is to connect with the Akashic Records masters as well. So at the same time, you do receive, direction and information from them. I believe it might be maybe a different way of experiencing it as a reader, mostly, rather than what you can get out of it in a sense
Okay.
of a reading. And I think the questions might be slightly deeper. I think it's the intention, honestly, because I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to compare in my head, if someone was to come for a card reading to me, for instance, could I ask for the same questions that I could in Akashic Records compared to the readings that I had so far? And I would say I can. So yeah, the only other thing, one of the other things that I think is very useful to remember when it comes to Akashic Records is that you can also do healing through Akashic Records. So you'll definitely receive, I think if you go for an Akashic Records reading specifically, the intention usually behind it would be that it would be a lot deeper, digging into your soul a lot more, because that's what the Akashic Records can bring, and the information itself can be very healing. The guidance from the masters can be very helpful, and you can, whenever you go, let's say that something happened in your past life that is still affecting you. Most likely, I mean, all of them probably are affecting all of us, but you can receive a healing through Akashic Records where you enter that situation. And although you can't, change that imprint in a sense, because that energetic imprint of whatever happened and it will be there. However, now you are entering it with a different intention, different view, different perspective, and you can, in your mind, visualize a different ending, for example. So you're visualizing different ending, and that also creates an imprint, within your energetic field. Therefore, now when you live, you move forward, you now have a different, let's call it, resolution or a conclusion of that situation or whatever it was in the past life, and you can carry on with your life without having this energy dragging you down. Let's say, if we're like, I suppose I did that post today about abundance, lack, and scarcity. So you might have this programming, this energy that you carry constantly of living in scarcity or lack of something. So and then you go in the past life and you realize that you lived in a family that was living through poverty. It was really hard, so you can go enter there, and just kind of create some sort of a different conclusion, maybe talk to the people, maybe create some sort of different understanding of the situation, and you remove that energy cloud, I want to call it, from your space. So then, it can provide healing in that way.
In terms of finding your past lives that you need to heal from. I have recently been asking my guides to help me access things from the past that I need to heal from. I've been doing a few different things, and I've noticed just before I've fallen asleep, I've shut my eyes and had visions of people who I don't know from times gone by, not modern times. And I've had this like little video play out of somebody poor, a man who was poor, who was begging. And I just thought, well, who's this? I don't know who this is. Why am I being shown this guy? And then when I realized it was from the past, I realized I'm being shown what I've been asked to be shown. And it was just before I fell asleep. And obviously, as our resident dream expert, can people use their dreams to be shown things from past lives and receive a healing whilst they're asleep if they set the intention?
Oh yes, that's a big yes. That is one of the all it takes is your intention to say before you go to sleep, tonight I'm entering my past life. Now it might not be, it doesn't mean that you're going to dream about something that's so vivid and you wake up and you remember this whole, story of what you were wearing, what you were doing, who you were. It might literally be either nothing, you don't remember anything, but you gotta trust you did anyway because our soul does travel. Or you might remember a little glimpse of something to do with a hat. There was a white hat that I saw, and then you kind of need to. Well, that's the other part of it when you kind of use your intuition as to try and think of what that means, because your mind might be interpreting something from your past life in this very simplified, let's call it, way. It could be a little glimpse of something. So, but yes, it definitely is possible. Yeah, through dreams. The other thing I suppose I wanted to add about Akashic Records is how it can help us with our future, because it is the space of our energetic potentiality as well. You can ask the Akashic Records when you're making decision, right? Which one would be better, what it will lead to, and maybe also how can I honor myself, within this decision, or which decision would honor me the best? Because essentially, Akashic Records are, like I say, all the information based on your soul's purpose throughout any lifetime that they ever had. So the soul's purpose would be something specific, let's say, and then you can ask, based on that, on my soul's purpose, which decision would honor me the most? And then there are many visualization exercises that you can do that will give you that information through accessing the Akashic Records. You can, for instance, a lot of times, I think a lot of exercises that people share are when you access, usually it's a library, but anyone can create any sort of visual of their Akashic Records. And you can create this sort of screen in front of you, and you watch it as if it was a movie, and just see what shows up if you were to make that choice, see what shows up if you were to make another choice, and that just helps you decide as to which one will be better for you. And I really like the example one of the books mentioned on how to maybe understand it a little bit better as to what the Akashic Records are and the potential future that they can show you, was the Christmas Carol written by Charles Dickens. So with Scrooge, that's exactly like an example of what it means to be able to see the future based on what you're doing right now, right? So Scrooge obviously was very anti-Christmas, not very loving, helpful, caring, and then he was taken through all of these potential endings that his attitude and behavior in this lifetime led to. So then when he woke up, he was, enlightened and thought, oh my gosh, I really need to change it, because otherwise this is the trajectory that I'm currently on. And you can see how it affects other people, because that's the thing with the Akashic Records, because they're the records of everything and anything ever in the universe. you can access, when you access the Akashic Records and you see, let's say you're asking about a specific decision, and you can see how that then affects your family, your friends, what energetic effect it has on them, possibly, again, depending if you're, allowed this information or not. But usually, I think we would be if we're asking from a genuine space. So yeah, I just want to mention this one because I'm talking about this whilst I'm remembering. I read, I can't remember where I read this. I don't know if it was even particularly on Akashic Records. I think it was a story or a book around a near-death experience. So people who, die for a short period of time and their soul actually goes to spirit and they're aware of what's happening. And there was one gentleman who said that he remembered how he actually went and entered Akashic Records somehow, and he had this, and he could see. I think that's where the word tapestry I got from, because he could see, it was like an energetic tapestry that he could see how, that person's action, and then it led to that other person's, action, and that led to the other person, and it was just like this whole, like like knitting a blanket. You can just, one thing connects to the other, and that connects to the other, and all of that stuff. So it's a very, I think, useful way and tool to remember that whatever decision we make and whatever we think will in some way somehow affect others, because it's all within the collective. It stays there. So if we are, I think that's where we then talk about the collective energy. So currently, let's say the collective energy is of, I don't know, fear, maybe because of the worldly events and such. So a lot of this cloud is hanging over many, many people's energy, many people's heads. But although we can't deny that it's happening, it doesn't mean that it has to control your life, especially if you're not actually directly affected by the situation right now. And what you put out can actually change the course of things. So I think that's where, for instance, collective meditations come into play, where you can, if you, in a group of people, start meditating on love, I don't know, healing, strength for the world, maybe, intentionally affecting a specific part of the world, it will have an effect. We might not see it physically here and now. We don't always have all the information coming back to us, but it does have an effect, I believe. And yeah. Um, I'm just looking if there's anything else that I would want to mention on this. So did you say when you were doing the course? So did you enter your Akashic records for just the information on past lives at the time?
Haven't done a course on Akashic Records. I've done a course on doing past life readings with the tarot, and I've done a meditation to connect to the Akashic Records, and also it was a membership I was part of that I was taught as well. So
Okay.
not a course as such, but just sort of teaching how to go into the quantum field and how to get access. And then I've done meditations with different people and different teachers. And then I've used the tarot. So I've gone in several different ways, depending on sort of what I felt drawn to learning. But like you were saying, if you can buy a book on accessing your Akashic records, it takes practice and meditation with everything spiritual. If you can meditate, then you can do any of the other stuff with practice, because that's the one key thing to getting into all of this stuff. Although, like you were saying earlier, you can use dreams. There's so many different methods of doing it. And if you're somebody that likes to use dreams and keeps a dream journal, then I'd recommend doing that. If that's the sort of thing that really floats your boat, then use what you're already doing. If you're a meditator, use your own meditation time to access your Akashic records. There's just so many different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, I just wanted to mention when I went into my Akashic Records, when I felt, oh, this is the time for it. I felt the need when I was struggling particularly with some sort of a block, and I felt like it's some sort of energy that's dragging me down, and I was by that time aware enough to know that it's not true to what's happening right now in my life. So I just wanted, I didn't really have an intention in the sense of, oh, which past life caused it. It's just what is in me, what is this, and how can I overcome it? Um, and and so I was just taken to, so I didn't have, in a sense, a book, let's say, oh, I'm looking at this particular past life, because that's how we often see Akashic records, our Akashic records as a library, because we can enter different information from different past lives, and I just felt like going into a room. So my let's call it a building, I don't know, of Akashic records is made up of a library, but it also has different rooms which I can just enter. And I feel when I was first entering my Akashic records, I felt like those are the rooms of like my psyche, so my subconscious thoughts, and they're all different, different subjects and stuff like that. And so I just entered the room that was dark. Right, there was no sun shining because I was, again, like I say, talking about some sort of blocks. And I had received different visuals that represent those blocks. And it was actually very enlightening. It was very helpful. Um, so yeah, it can all look in all different ways, and we can ask about literally anything and everything that we want regarding our lives. Because there was an interesting sentence in one of the books, which I will share with you guys in a second, because that is also the book where the exercises are. And it said that your psychology is closely linked to your spirituality, which is true, because how, our soul's purpose would be to guide us and take us through different experiences in our life. And then it depends on our attitude and perspective as to what conclusions we take out of whatever is happening. And it can show up a lot in navigating our relationships in life, and that's any relationship with any other person or animal, even. There's always some sort of a purpose, and I suppose that's sort of the depth to which the Akashic records will go to, if you wanted to really understand why. If you have your whys, why am I experiencing this? Why is this certain thing keep popping up in my life? And then you could go, for instance, for a reading or do it for yourself, and it would tell you that the purpose here is that you need to speak your truth, for example. That is the purpose that your soul is trying to, convey to you. And if you're not doing that, hence the situations are repeating, that are challenging you to just say what you have to say. Um, the book there is a book called Akashic Records Made Easy. I think you can buy it anywhere on Amazon or through Hay House, because I think it's Hay House Publishing, and it has quite a few useful exercises. And it's not. I think that book especially is very, as in like accessible to anyone, because it doesn't speak about Akashic records in such a way that it wants you to say a prayer or close a prayer. There are different exercises that you can just use on a daily basis.
Brilliant. So that's that question with the exercises that you mentioned is in that book. I've just popped it in the comments for anybody that wants to give it a quick Google and pick up a copy of it. Akashic Records or Akashic.
I think that's
Akashic Records Made Easy.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know where I've put my phone, because I have it on my Kindle on my phone. But that particular book, I believe, was written. I'm looking on my cards because I have the lady's cards. Sandra Ann Taylor. who also has the Akashic Tarot card deck.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I believe that was a book written by her. Any other?
So, because I think we might have answered a couple as we've gone along. So there's, if I pop them up on the screen,
Okay.
Any that I think we might need to recover.
Okay. So, hello, excellent example, really easy to understand that way. Would driving be a kind of active meditation? I would say so, yeah. Many times I hear people saying how ideas and inspiration come to them when they're driving specifically. But like I say, it's mostly the kind of drive that you know already, you're familiar with, and it's, you don't have to pay attention to traffic lights or whatever too much. And it is a form of an active meditation, yeah. I heard also that Albert Einstein has received his inspiration on relativity whilst he was on the bus just on the way home. Because that's when we stop thinking about something analytically, that's when the inspiration comes, because that's when we're open to the field, Akashic field, and ideas just plop in. So, and you'll hear this story many, many times about many, many geniuses throughout the history who received inspiration not when they were working on something, but when they weren't working, either through dreams. I think it was actually that example of Charles Dickens, who received a opening to his Christmas Carol book in a dream. Yeah, and then I think we all know also this picture of Albert Einstein and the apple hitting his head, where he just suddenly received some sort of an inspiration. So yeah, definitely driving is one of them. Okay, could you choose what to receive, or is it random? No, you can choose. Definitely you can choose. I think we kind of answered that question by saying that you can consciously enter to see if that decision would lead, or where would specific decision lead you towards. I think definitely the more specific you are, the better. Random, probably inspirations would be mostly random. Whatever is just aligned with your energy will come to you randomly.
And I think when you're exploring in the healing sense of accessing the Akashic Records, if you're looking to say, I mean, I wouldn't go in and say, show me a past life, because I could be bombarded. So I might say, show me a past life where I experienced financial loss. And then I would be looking for something quite specific, or show me a past life where I had my heart broken, so that I can heal from it. So you can be quite, I mean, I think it's the same with anything. If you ask something relatively vague, you might get something relatively vague back. But if you go in with something quite specific, then you should get something quite specific back, based on your intention that you go in with. Okay, let's look at this one. So what's an example of something that you would recommend somebody say? And would you recommend they write it down and leave that written down by their bedside as well?
I think you can do literally anything that will make it even more intentional. So writing is often intentional, even more when we put things down on paper, because then it's no longer in our head, it's actually now on paper. So yes, definitely. I think it sometimes, let's say, depends on the strength of our belief in our intention. So if we're maybe not super trusting that if we just say something, it will happen, then write it down. If it's easier, if it creates this energy of confidence that it will definitely happen because now it's here and I'm looking at it, and maybe reading through it, a few times before you go to bed. it's as we're in the topic of energetics. That's basically what energy does, right? The strength of your intention is what matters. You can repeat. That's one of the ways that I've learned. If you just set an intention to do something in your dream, heal, enter past lives, just repeat it constantly whilst you're already in bed, and whilst you're falling asleep. Um, so yeah, definitely.
So, in terms of an example of if you were struggling with loss, if you were struggling with loss, you lost your job, you lost your money, you lost something, you might say, show me in my dreams a past life where I have been affected by loss and help me to heal from this. And that's all you'd need to say, and that's your intention. And then if you want to write it down, you can.
Yeah, or you can ask also, just show me the purpose in this loss, because I mean, maybe it isn't connected to a past life, but there definitely is a purpose behind it of some sort. So what is your soul's purpose behind this experience that you're having right now?
Or show me what I need to heal from in order to be successful at blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Okay. Let's pop this one up. I haven't read it yet.
So I'm just, by the way, reading it out loud because I also put the podcast on my audio only,
Of course.
just so that people know what the questions are.
Sure.
The kind you do more automatically. So I'm guessing this is about like the spontaneous kind of inspirations from Akashic Records. So whichever activity that gets you into that gist would apply then, wouldn't it? So you mean like whatever energy you're in, because you're doing something, you're in an activity, and then the ideas would flow to you spontaneously. That's how I understand this question.
There's an extra part to it. I'll just put that on the screen as well. This might
Oh,
explain more.
with the choosing to access, I meant like an important moment in history, for instance, even if it isn't part of your past lives.
So this is like the Eiffel Tower example.
Right. So is it that you're thinking about, if you're like busy with some sort of activity, and somehow whatever happened historically somewhere else is somehow relevant to this activity, would you be spontaneously inspired? That's how I understand this question. Just let us know if that's right. But if that is the question, then I would say yes, because I feel that at that moment you're aligned with that energy of whatever was happening. More than one person might have been going through a similar questioning in them when they were doing something, and they might have been the ones who created a solution. They might have been inspired by universe at the time, and so it's still within the Akashic field. And if you then align with it, you wouldn't consciously know that that's what it is, but you might be aligned with that energetic imprint now that is existent, and it just attracted to you. So I hope I answered the question. And so then we have the question about active meditation. So I think we've answered that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So whether driving would be an active meditation. Yeah. Daydreaming even is an active meditation. Oh, one thing that just popped in my head. You don't always have to just access Akashic Records to see the potential of a future outcome. If you want to create your reality, all it takes is visualizing your desired outcome, and that visualization, because it's energetically created, will be imprinted within your field. So that's one other way, which is part of manifesting. By the way, I'll be doing manifesting workshop. If any of you are interested, I am sharing that information in my group and also on my Facebook page. But that's part of that as well. Now there could be, I'm just hearing like, with the manifestation, if you're envisioning something specific that you wish to get to, let's say physically, not just in your energetic field, the only thing that might be somehow slowing down or stopping you are perhaps energies that we already carry that we might need to heal on the way. Bless you.
Thank you.
So, but it's always, even if that happens and your dreams and your desires are a little bit slowed down or delayed, or you feel like they are getting frustrated, sometimes it's because there's something, it's like I kind of see it as a wall, like there might be a wall that we're creating ourselves to actually reach that potential. Anyway, I think I just went on a bit of a tangent there.
There's just one other one here that I've just spotted. So I'll read it out, obviously, for the audio podcast. I was told I was blocked from moving forward with getting more information from my readings. So that's interesting. Who was it that said you were blocked, and did they identify what the block was? Because many of us at different stages of our lives will block ourselves because of something that's happened in our life, this life or another life. But the blocks aren't permanent. And really, I believe blocks come up in order for us to learn how to overcome them. So I believe they're actually here to help us to overcome things that come up that are preventing us. They said from past lives. Now, there's a lot of people, particularly who work psychically or who work mediumistically, who are told they've got blocks with past lives, with vows that they've taken, or with a past life where they were persecuted, maybe as a witch, which is why we come into this life retaining those skills and wanting to be able to use them. But in the past, we were silenced, we were ostracized, we were killed, we were outcast, or we were made to take a vow to never use our psychic gifts ever again. And that can continue into this lifetime. But the reason it's being highlighted is for you to find a way to overcome that block. So that might be something that you want to work on yourself, is, going into meditation or before you go to bed, asking, show me, talking to your spirit guides, this is, show me why I'm being blocked from getting more information from my readings. You might even find something comes up from this lifetime. It might not even be a past life, but just be open to what comes through. And then you can ask your spirit guides to help you to heal from that. A lot of the healing, in my experience, comes from awareness, just being aware of what's happened, letting it come up, letting it come out. And then it kind of just wants to be heard, and then it passes of its own accord. So a lot of the time, that's all that you need to do when it comes to healing, is just acknowledge what it is there that's happened in the past, or have an energy healing session, a Reiki session, something to dismantle that block and move it out of your field. So that might be something that you want to explore. I don't know if you meditate, but that would be a great way of doing it, and just setting that intention before you meditate and letting your guides show you what it is that's causing that block.
Yeah, and there's one thing that's like coming to me just to mention, that, it's really be aware of your own intentions and your own readiness. Because like you mentioned, Mel, it could be something from this lifetime. And I'm just thinking about, it might not be a particular situation even necessarily. It could be just the fear that's just hiding deep inside, that's stopping you from accessing that particular information. Because perhaps if you were to access that information, I don't know what it is, and what questions you were asking, specifically, but who knows, maybe that information is actually not negative that's coming from your past life. Maybe it's an information of your immense power that you had in a past life. And in this current life, you don't feel worthy of it, for example. That's an example of an energetic block that you could be carrying within yourself, that might have also stemmed from other previous lifetimes, right? Because we experience so many situations that overlap with each other throughout our lifetimes, really. So there doesn't have to be a very specific one lifetime that will give you the answers. It could be just some sort of an energetic block and imprint that you're just carrying with you, and right now you're just not really ready to access it. Yeah, fear and self-doubt. That's the thing. You see, if when I was so like I said at the beginning, a couple or 3 years ago now, I was already starting to be very interested in Akashic Records. However, I didn't feel like it's the right time for me to access them, although consciously, my personality, I was very curious, but I felt also the pull away from it in some sense. So I never really, so I read books, I did the course, I didn't really, enter any information about myself. But I had this awareness that I feel like it's because I'm not ready, because it actually was creating a slight, it wasn't very obvious, but there was a minuscule anxiety in me to even see what's in there. And I felt like I'm not ready to see it. So then only after a while, when I was very relaxed and all of this self-doubt and fear just went away, and I felt very open to just see whatever is in there, and it just was very easy for me. And so it could be something that, like that, you're just stopping yourself in some way. And so if you can identify it, because I can see the comment fear and self-doubt, so I'm wondering whether this is what you feel is stopping you, because if that's the case, then you would then address that fear and self-doubt and ask, like Mel said, if it's during the sleep time, help me heal, how can I heal from this fear or self-doubt, or what is it even, in regards to, so you can have some more information and then heal that first, and then you might be able to access that specific lifetime, past lifetime. So I hope we have answered your question. Everyone else's, are there any other question anyone has? We will be finishing in just a couple of minutes. And that's why also I was just going to say, that's why sometimes it's good to go for a reading with someone else, to a reader of an Akashic Records, because they are detached, from the situation, and whatever information will come through will be exactly what you need to hear at this time, because the masters of the Akashic Records, they know what you need. You can, and the Akashic Records readers, because their focus is on the Akashic Records and so the soul's journey, I would understand they are trained in a bit more in what kind of questions to ask, how to ask them, maybe compared to, I don't know, let's say card reader or something. I feel like the training kind of goes into a little bit of a different dimension of the reading, I want to say. Right. Okay. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everyone for your questions. I'm sorry we can't address you by name because StreamYard is not giving us your name. It just says Facebook user. But yes, whoever was here, thank you very much. And if you have any questions on the back of what we covered after this live, then please still comment or just message either of us, and we can cover it in our next discussion. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Mel, anything else from you?
No, I don't think so. Just to reiterate, thank you for your comments. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Have a lovely week.